Hi, good morning. My name is Thomas Najar. I'm a Qigong instructor, and this morning I'm going to give you an introductory lesson into a seated form of Qigong. This is Sheng Zhen Healing Qigong. We're going to go through Series 1 today. Series 1 is 10 movements, and before we do that, I'm going to show you the opening form whenever you do any Sheng Zhen Qigong form. So Sheng Zhen is a system that was developed by Master Li, and he always starts with an opening that's referred to as Zhang Tian breath. Zhang Tian breath is just a way to center yourself and prepare yourself for your practice. So for this, I'm going to mirror. So this is my right hand, but I'm going to call this left, and I'm going to call this right, just for this movement. First, you want to make sure that you're seated well forward on the edge of the chair. You don't want to be leaning back against the chair. And we begin with our hands in prayer position like so. Zhang Tian breath starts by blowing into the palms. Then you're going to turn your hands like so. Your left hand is going to rise and your right hand is going to descend. Separate. And then once this left hand is about even with your hairline, just at the top of your forehead, then it also descends as well. In this movement, what we do is we draw our qi down. So oftentimes we can spend a lot of time in our heads thinking and ruminating about things. So it's just a way to sort of center ourselves deeper within our body and also start to focus on your breathing and your lower dantian. So throughout this practice, you want to be breathing deep breaths in and out through the nose, really anchoring your breath in your lower abdomen. So you want deep abdominal breathing. I'll demonstrate that one more time and then we'll begin with the form. So Zhang Tian breath, blowing into the palms. Left hand comes up, right hand comes down, and left hand comes down. And you can form a bowl in the lap with the thumb tips touching. From here, I always like to mention, center yourself, kind of bring your awareness into your physical form. Again, focus on deep abdominal breathing and releasing any worries or concerns for the duration of the practice. With our first movement, your arms will come up in an arc, and then with an inhale, rocking back, and exhale, coming forward. Deep breaths, inhale, and exhale. One more time, inhale, and exhale. Okay, I want to point out a couple things about this movement. So you want to maintain a curve, a gentle curve down the length of the arm throughout the form. You never want to straighten the arms entirely. I'm going to turn to the side so you can see a little bit better. As you rock back, your arms are a little bit more straight. They're still curved, of course, but the elbows are less bent. As you come forward, you want to let the elbows bend more so that the hands come in close to the forehead and the palms are directed toward each other. So as I rock back, arms are a little straighter, and as I come forward, arms are a little more bent. As I rock back onto the heels, and as I come forward, I lift the heels and come up onto the toes. The last thing I'll touch on this first movement is that new students have a tendency when they rock back to open their hands out into the room so that the palms are facing outward. And for this movement, it's important to make sure that the palms are directed toward the center of the chest. So in this way, we contain the qi within the form. You sort of contain the movement. You can even experiment and see what that feels like. It feels completely different, and I feel that it's almost unsteady in a way if you open your hands up, as opposed to if you keep your hands sort of cupped and palms directed towards your chest. It keeps the movement more contained. Inhale back, and exhale forward. Okay, when we transition to the second movement, we will pause briefly as we're forward, and then the hands will descend. They're going to brush the thighs, come out in an arc. You inhale this time forward, and then exhale and lean back. Inhale, the hands are just going to hang from the wrists, and exhale, pushing out to the corners of the room. Again, as you come forward, you're up on the toes, and as you rock back, you are back on the heels. These first two movements can be a little taxing on the shoulders, so you want to be very careful. Make sure that the shoulders stay down throughout. You don't want to be hunching up the shoulders in any way. And if you're practicing with a group, if you ever need a break, just go ahead and take a break, give your shoulders a chance to recover, and then hop back in whenever you're ready. So those first two movements, just a little bit of what they look like together in sequence. Arms will come up. Inhale, rock back. Exhale, come forward again. Nice deep breaths. And then from here, hands will descend, brush the thighs. Inhale, forward. And exhale, rock back. Inhale, drawing chi in. Exhale, pushing chi out. Deep breaths, like so. And then when we transition to the next movement, inhale, coming forward. And exhale, you'll come to a neutral position where you're seated upright and your palms are directed towards each other, just a little distance away. Third movement. For this movement, your hands will descend, and as they descend, the backs of the hands come together between the thighs, and your fingers are pointed straight down. Then from here, I'm going to go slow at first, and then I'll show what it looks like at regular speed. With an inhale, fingers are pointing down, hands are coming straight up. Come to the top of the movement, you'll notice that my hands are about even with the top of my chest or base of the throat, base of the neck. And then from here, hands are going to rotate inward, fingers pointing toward the chest, elbows drop. Hands come through to this bowl position. Notice that the hands never separate throughout this movement. They stay in contact with each other. And then with an exhale, the hands are going to roll inwards and descend. And at the bottom of the movement, the fingers are pointing down once more. Okay? So here's what that looks like at normal speed. So here is my neutral position where I transition. Hands descend, backs of the hands come together. Inhale straight up, turning inward, and exhale descending. Inhale, and exhale. This particular movement, you really want to have it be as soft and gentle as possible. Those first two movements, as I said, can be a little taxing or fatiguing on the shoulders, and this movement is a great one to recover. The first two movements emphasize respiration, and this movement emphasizes circulation. So what you might experience, and you can sort of augment this just through visualization, right, is this sense of inhaling, drawing chi up from deep down beneath the surface of the earth with that inhale. So inhale, drawing up, and then with an exhale, allowing for that chi to cascade down the front like a waterfall. So this circular motion, but also with this connection to the earth, where we're drawing chi up from deep down in the center of the earth. With this motion, I'm going to turn to the side so you can see a little bit more. It's not necessary to keep the back straight and rigid. You can allow for the upper back and shoulders to participate in the movement as well. So as I'm sort of lowering the hands, you'll notice my shoulders will round and the head dips just a little bit. And then with an inhale, I can allow for my chest to sort of lift up and rise, let my head lean back just a little bit, and then exhale, come forward again. It's a subtle movement, but I do think it's important because a lot of what's happening in this form is loosening up the back. And we're loosening up the upper back and the neck a little bit with this. It's not a large movement, but I feel like it is an important aspect to call attention to. All right, so that's our third movement. And then the transition from the third movement to the fourth movement would be like so. So we're in this movement, inhaling, exhale, and then transition, inhale, and then exhale, the arms are just going to come down by the sides. So finally the hands separate and the hands are next to the hips. Then the hands will come up just a little bit. Inhale, lifting up on the side, and exhale, descending. And other side, inhale, and exhale. So you'll notice the movements are very slow and controlled and synchronized with the breathing. We want to maintain that deep abdominal breathing throughout as well. So it has a profound impact on just bringing you into a state of deep relaxation, getting you out of any sort of stress that you're experiencing. And in this movement, a couple things to point out. So you'll notice the arm remains bent throughout, the wrist remains flexed as well. So whether you're flexing the wrist down or extending it back a little bit, but you still want to keep the everything really soft and nice and slow. The other thing that can happen, I'll notice with new students from time to time, is there's a tendency in this movement to sort of slump forward a little bit and let the head drop. And I'll see things that look like this sometimes. Right? And what you want to make sure that you're attending to is keep that chest lifted, keep the head up, the chin up, looking out over the shoulder. So these movements, when done well, there's a certain majesty to them, a certain grace. So it's not a time to sort of be like a shrinking violet that doesn't want to attract attention. You want to make them nice and big and proud. Nice deep breaths. Okay, one more time. Okay. Next movement. Now we're getting into a sort of a forward and back motion. I'll show a little bit from the front and then from the side as well. So there's going to be an inhale as you come forward, and then an exhale coming back. So it's very similar to rowing a boat. Okay. This one, there's actually quite a few technical details with it, so I'll call those out. First, you'll notice when I'm coming forward, I'm allowing for my head to come back. I'm not bringing it way back as far as I can, right? Just comes back a little bit, and I'm leading with the chest. And then at the bottom of the movement, the arms continue on. I've only bent forward about halfway, and I'll show you from the side in a moment, but I've only bent forward about halfway, and then the head comes forward a little bit as well. I'm not dropping it as far as it'll go, it just comes forward a little bit, then the hands come up, and I come back. So before I show this to you from the side, last thing I want to touch on is when you come forward, there's a little bit of an internal rotation in the shoulders. So this is an internal rotation, this is an external rotation, right? We're going to rotate internally, not as far as we can go. We don't want to get into something where we're starting to hunch the shoulders, but just a little bit. So an internal rotation, and then back. And as you can see, I'm coming forward up onto the toes, and back onto the heels. So that internal rotation in the shoulders can sort of relax as I come back. You can let the elbows drop. And now from the side, as I was saying, what you'll notice, a couple things. From the side, it's easier to see. I'm only coming forward about halfway. And then my hands, my arms, as they come up, they're going to come up. They're not going to come up as high to be even with my shoulders. I just want them a little bit above the knees. So like so. And as you can see, you have this sort of leading with the chest, and then coming back up as if you're being pulled by a cord between your shoulder blades. Deep inhale coming forward, and exhale coming back. Okay. The last thing I'll mention, we'll do just a couple more. But in this movement, the image here is of waves rolling in and out along the shoreline. So you really want to get that sort of very soft, gentle rolling motion, like water kind of sloshing back and forth, even to where it feels like the two movements, the forward and the back, just sort of easily melt and transform into one another. There's no clear division where the forward movement stops and the backward movement begins. Often when I teach classes, this movement, I will lose track of time and lose track of where I am. It just feels really good. It's incredibly relaxing. Feels great on the shoulders and the neck and the low back. So in this one, I tend to linger here and do a lot of repetitions for this movement. It just feels really nice. Okay, moving on. So our next movement, now we're going to get into a really big movement. With a deep inhalation, both arms come high up overhead. You're going to look up overhead, then come back to the sides. Exhale, fold forward. Let those hands come straight up the front. Inhale, coming up. Reach high up overhead. And exhale, fold. Okay, so in this movement, deep breaths, really extending the arms. This is the first time where we've allowed for those arms to really go straight. You want to be reaching and extending through the fingertips as you reach up overhead. And then allowing for the shoulders and the chest to open. As you exhale, you're going to fold all the way forward. Let your ribs come down to your thighs. So you do this a handful of times, and then we're going to transition. Next one, transition, inhale up, and exhale down. Okay, so this next movement, this one is a fun one for sure. So I'm going to talk about the transition and then kind of what goes on from there. So that transition, you move from hands high up overhead, and as they come down and you come toward the bottom, you have a quick, forceful exhalation, right? So my hands are sort of pressing palms down. I'm coming up on the toes. I have a very strong squeezing and compression through the lower abdomen and also contracting all the muscles in the pelvic floor. So that forceful exhale, what we're doing here is you can just imagine expelling unhealthy chi out of your system. So here, just letting any unhealthy chi, anything that feels heavy, stagnant, achy, grumpy, whatever the case may be, just letting all that release out of your system with that exhale. And then what we do from here is you're just going to repeat this motion and repeat that short, forceful exhalation without bringing the arms back up overhead, okay? So a couple things with that. You want to make sure when you're doing this, allow for the breathing to be more shallow. Throughout the form up until this point, we've had really deep abdominal breaths. In this section, in this movement, when you're repeating these forceful exhalations, let the breath be a little bit more shallow. If you take really deep breaths and then forceful exhalations, you can make yourself lightheaded, okay? So one more time, we're just going to do a couple of these. We'll start with that transition. So we're going to inhale up the front, and then exhale, and repeat. Okay, you just do that a handful of times, 8 times, 12 times, whatever feels good to you. Just repeat that there. Next movement. So one of the things that I really like about Sheng Zhen Qi Gong is that it discourages you from taking yourself too seriously. So with the next movement, the hands are going to come up in front, and you're going to wiggle your fingers, and you're going to tap your toes, and you're going to smile if you can, right? So think of something silly that's happened, something, maybe something that you're looking forward to, maybe something that you're grateful for. I always like to think of that time when my cat fell out the window. He crashed through the screen when he was up against the windowsill and fell out, and that to me is just one of the funniest things. He was fine, of course, right? It was no problem, but it always brings a smile to my face. And so it's one of those things where as life goes by, if you're not careful and you don't actually, with some intent, try to remember the things that make you happy, then you might not remember the things that make you happy. So we're going to do this for a little while, and then we're going to, and also notice I'm loosening up my shoulders, I'm loosening up my neck, really getting all the fingers to move as much as you can, good tapping with the toes, right? And then I'm going to make the movement really small, but as fast as I can. Okay, and then coming to a stop. All right, from here, we have a little bit, sort of a more dynamic movement. Form a heart. Inhale, draw in. Exhale, down. And then come out and around. Okay, So a little bit more explanation on this movement. This is one that's only done one time, so we're not going to repeat this over and over again. It is sort of a transition between what we were doing a moment ago and then the final movement. So there's three parts. The first part, I'm going to form a heart, and then inhale, draw it in. Okay, so hands are here. We were doing this a moment ago. Form a heart, inhale, draw it in. And then from here, I'm going to exhale down. This is, again, a fast, forceful movement, right? Exhaling down. And I'm driving my hands forward, right, between my legs, and kind of leaning forward a little bit as well while I do that. Okay? And coming up onto the toes. So that's the second movement. The third movement from this position, I'm going to lift my arms, lean back, lift my feet off the ground, maintaining my balance, and come back around. And I like to land with a little bit of a stomp and a clap. Okay? So with that movement, I like to demo doing it slow, in control, because you really want to be maintaining your balance. You don't want it to be a flailing type motion or anything where you might fall out of your chair. And also noticing that the arms make a big circle, but your legs, you can just lift them off the floor, come straight to the sides, and come straight back in again. It's not necessary to try to draw like a big circle in the air with your feet. So just one more time, that movement, that transition, form a heart, inhale, exhale down, and then out and around. Okay, final movement in the form. You're going to extend your feet out to the sides. You want to make sure that the soles of the feet are down. If you can straighten your legs, great. If it's too difficult to do that, you can always bend the knees. What you don't want to do is you don't want to have your soles of the feet propped up. Make sure to get them flat, whether you're straightening your legs or not. When I do this one, I'm way forward on the very edge of my chair. And then from here, we have the final movement of this form. It's a gathering motion. Inhale and exhale. Again, very deep breaths. Anchoring your breath in your lower dantian. Your lower dantian being that storehouse of qi in your lower abdomen, like a ball of energy. With the inhale, using your hands as big scoops, gathering up qi from the atmosphere around you, from your environment. And then with the exhale, you're drawing that qi down. You can think about bathing yourself in the qi that you're collecting, and then drawing that qi in, allowing it to gather in your lower dantian. This one, you can actually really slow this down, allow for the breath to be very deep and long. That slow, deep breathing has a very powerful effect on calming the nervous system, bringing you into a state of deep relaxation. And after you've done this for a while, then to transition back, with the inhale, you're going to walk your feet in. Hands will come to prayer position, and then exhale, return to this position like so. Okay. There are some additional forms in the Sheng Zhen healing form. So this is series 1. There's also series 2 and 3. If you know those forms and you want to continue, you can continue from here. Or you can finish your practice after the first form. That's what we're going to do today. And so then once again, we will close with our Zhang Tian breath. Going into the palms. Left hand will come up, right hand descends. And the left hand descends, drawing your qi downward, forming a bowl in the lap with thumb tips touching. Okay, so that's our practice. So that is Sheng Zhen Healing, Series 1. Thank you very much for watching. And for more resources on Qigong and other exercises, I think we have those available elsewhere on the website. All right, thank you for watching. Bye-bye.